Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN The Hub's Fantasy Strategy Show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm here as
Ross's
always with
smile is
Kasey,
freaking
Vlad
me
to the
out.
bone, Shienvold, and Ross the boss, who has a smile plastered on his face.
I'm trying to pretend I'm like a photo, I'm not live. I just want to pretend it was a photo.
Sometimes we think you're
Unfortunately, you have like my son's like school picture smile when you do that.
It's a phony smile. Hi everybody, I'm Ross the boss, and I want to talk fantasy strategy, fantasy sports, NFL sports, little baseball with you, cowboy.
All right, guys. So let's just start where every sports fan really would start right now, which is these championship games in NFL football. First of all, let's revisit our predictions. I know Just Bob predicted the Eagles. I did too. And Kasey, I'm sorry because I know you're a Giants fan, but wow, did they put a hurting on you guys?
Oh yeah,
Emphasis on hurts.
I think when I was talking last week, I picked the Giants,
Nice hat,
but I
Ross.
said I think the Eagles are the better team, but maybe the Giants could keep it close. They didn't even keep it close.
No, well, they did maybe for 4 minutes.
The good news is I got to go to bed earlier than I had anticipated because the game was over by halfway through the second quarter.
Okay, now I'll just say this. This is a public service announcement. That's the kind of thing that only someone who's over 45 says, but it's true. When you get
It's
there,
absolutely true.
Right. So Ross, you've got your Bengals hat on. Let's talk about the Bengals. What did you see in that game? How'd you feel about it? Obviously, you love the outcome, but
Joe Burrow is just laser focused. I mean, he's the most focused quarterback right now playing in the playoffs. I mean, this guy is just can't do anything wrong. The first drive, he took them down, scored a touchdown very quickly. Kasey and I were very impressed. It was in Buffalo. It shut those fans up quickly. And I mean, this guy's just a winner. You know what I mean? I mean, you see people that come around like once every 20 years, like a Joe Burrow. And I'll put Mahomes there, but you know, I don't think he never won a national championship like Burrow did in college. But I mean, I would put Joe Montana there. Maybe he's 6 Super Bowls, six wins and 0 losses. I mean, there's a few guys I would put in that hierarchy, but I am worried about Kansas City. It's a tough place to play. It should be fun to watch. But the Bengals Burrow's 3-0 against Mahomes.
Didn't they? I saw somebody call it Burrowhead instead of Arrowhead Stadium because he's
Burrowhead Stadium. That's hilarious. I mean, so Ross, essentially what you're saying is you see Joe Burrow and you see that he could get to that level of like a Joe Montana type. I don't even disagree. I mean, he's going to have to prove it.
Guys, in all seriousness, I mean, he's won in 2 years. He's won more playoff games for the Bengals than the Bengals ever won in all time. I mean, what he does on the field, it's just, I just feel like when he's playing quarterback, he barely makes mistakes and he just wants to win. He's just a winner. I mean, he won't lose. And he uses those receivers. I mean, they have 3 great receivers, and even their tight end Hurst was like catching passes, and even Perline catches a pass or Mixon. So I mean, he knows how to use that offense, and he's just a winner. I don't know what else to say.
Ross, I traded for Joe Mixon in Dynasty, 2 second-round picks. You know, he's a 26-year-old running back, so he's got limited shelf life. But I was happy to buy in on him.
Good move, Mixon. I mean, he did have that huge game, huge week. I think he had the biggest week of any fantasy player this year.
5 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that, guys? I mean, he was great.
But you know what?
And then he only had 2 touchdowns since before this last game.
Exactly.
Okay, but if you look at it, he consistently was a very solid back. It's not just that one game. You know, he's done it for a while. And he's probably got a good 2 years left in him. What I want to see, and so let's talk about this. You know, as fantasy sports fans, we know the offseason actually has a lot in it. It's got hirings. We're going to talk about it in a second. It's got the draft where all kinds of things change. And, you know, when I bought in on Mixon, I was thinking, but what are the Bengals going to do? What if they draft a high running back and it's clear the writing's on the wall for Mixon? Then I bought in at the wrong time. I decided to take the risk because the price was right. You know, the risk wasn't that much.
The Bengals, just so you know, Mixon signed a big contract. They're all in with Mixon. They love him in Cincinnati.
That's what I like to hear.
Town. I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, Perline could be leaving just because he wants to be a regular running back on a team where we use him more. But Mixon is going to be the Cincinnati running back for at least 2 more years. Until his contract runs out. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be worrying if I was you.
Music to my ears. Guys, let's talk about predictions. What do we think? What do we think is going to happen? I have my picks. You want me to say them first?
Yeah,
I
Hey, that's
usually
your
wait,
call.
but I'll go first.
can't wait.
I think the 49ers will win. I
Wow.
think that their defense is too much. I think Brock Purdy's a whole story. It's I can just envision this Super Bowl of either Brock Purdy versus Mahomes or Brock Purdy versus Joe Burrow. I think it's going to be versus Joe Burrow. I think it's Bengals, 49ers, the third time those teams would match up, but no Joe Montana this time.
No Wakey Shuffle either.
That's right.
No Wiki and no Boomer. Wasn't Boomer part of one of those?
Boomer was part of one of them, and Ken
Yeah.
Anderson was the quarterback.
Kenny
of the other. How do you
Anderson.
like that knowledge, Ross?
I one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, Kenny Anderson. He actually owns the Coke franchises in Kentucky. He made all his money doing that back in the 70s.
Yep, everyone knows. No, I'm kidding. Only Ross knew. But
I was going to say I had no idea. I don't even know what that
Very
means.
wealthy off that. Very wealthy.
all right, so I say Niners, Bengals.
Niners, okay.
And I
you
think the Bengals are going to win it.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I how else do you say it? I don't think in the NFC Championship, like he's been a great story, Brock Purdy. He's done a really nice job the last 6 or 7 weeks, however long he's been the quarterback. I mean, I don't see a rookie quarterback in the NFC Championship going into a town like Philadelphia with the most ravenous fan base that can make your life miserable, going into that kind of hostile of an environment and beating a team that's playing as well as the Eagles right now.
By the way, those fans in Philadelphia, they can make your life miserable even if you're not at the football game. I lived there for 5 years.
Oh,
Yes,
I remember.
we were there together.
I was there with you. And so
But you think the Eagles are going to take it?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it'll be a blowout like it was with the Giants, but I could see it being 24-13. They only put up 19 points against the Cowboys at home. The Cowboys have a good defense. The Eagles have 4 players on defense who got double-digit sacks this year. I just think it's a different level of pass rush with them. And they're healthy. So I could see it being 24-13, maybe 28-13. In the AFC, Patrick Mahomes says he's good to go. They don't have him on the injury report, but the high ankle sprain really scares me. And I think Cincinnati's playing more like a complete team right now. I see it being close. It could be similar to the Bills and Chiefs game of last year if both teams get hot, where it's just whoever has the ball last wins. But I just trust Burrow and the Bengals more right now.
I also, you could say it was whoever had the ball last won, but I kind of feel like in these games, the teams that are hungriest and most confident, they tend to win. And I think the Chiefs don't want to see the Bengals right now. I think after the last time they faced each other, I don't think they want any part in it. Whereas the Bengals almost have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing where I think they're actually the favorites and they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, they're in that perfect spot where if they win, it's because they were supposed to. But if they lose, they'll say, well, it was on the road in tough conditions.
Right. All right. So you got Eagles, Bengals?
I have Eagles, Bengals.
All right. Ross.
Brock Purdy, I mean, Kasey hit it right on the nose. I mean, basically a rookie quarterback going into Philadelphia. And then the Eagles had 70 sacks this year. I mean, 70 sacks. And
yeah, it was
Brock's
crazy.
going to have, you heard it from me first, 3 interceptions on Sunday. 3, Kasey Shienvold.
Well,
Brock
that's
will
bold. Yep.
He'll make mistakes. He'll make rookie mistakes, not because he's a bad quarterback, just because he's a rookie. Jalen Hurts is going to run the ball. He's going to throw the ball. A.J. Brown's going to have a huge game. He's going to catch the ball up the middle. Miles Sanders will have a big game. I don't know if Kenneth Gainwell is going to have 100 yards again, but if he does, they'll win by 20. But the Eagles should win the game. I just don't feel the 49ers have the quarterback to win this game in Philadelphia.
I don't even actually disagree with you guys, but I think that I just feel the legend coming. When you watch enough sports, you see certain things.
It's different playing away in the snow in Philadelphia.
But this is how the legend grows. Imagine him winning on the road in Philadelphia, taking that team to the Super Bowl.
A guy who was drafted in the last pick of the draft from Iowa State is going to be winning in the Eagles in the champion. I don't.
Well, what did they say about Tom Brady winning in Pittsburgh his rookie year? when Cordell
That
Stewart
wasn't his
came out
rookie
after the
year. It
game.
was his second year.
Well,
wasn't
whatever.
it?
His first crack.
Okay, his first
at
year as a quarterback.
starting.
I get it.
Or when he
Casey.
played Kurt Warner and the Rams, nobody gave him a chance to win that Super Bowl.
Okay,
By the
okay.
way, I was at that Super Bowl. It's the one Super Bowl I've ever been to.
I've been to 7. So
Ooh.
in the Bengal
Including
game,
Super Bowl 7?
No, I've been to 7 Super Bowls.
Okay,
I
all right,
attended 7.
I'm just giving you a little
7.
age
But
jab there.
The parties are better than the game. I enjoy going, but I'd rather watch it at home. It's just a bitter experience. But the parties the night before are great. So the Bengals, I think, I talked about this with Kasey earlier this week. I think the Bengals are going to blow this team out. I see the Bengals winning like 35-17, 35-10. It's not going to be close. It's going to be a big margin. I don't believe Mahomes is healthy. A high ankle sprain. I mean, we had him in basketball. I had one in basketball before, and it takes weeks to get over it, Kasey Shienvold. And you're a doctor. You know that. Let's not fool and just say we can tape it up.
Especially psychologically.
Well, it's close enough.
I do heal people's pain psychologically, so you should be talking to me.
Close enough. So long story short, I feel the pain in his ankle is going to erupt because how cold it is in Kansas City. It's going to be probably in the 20s. They're predicting maybe some snow flurries. They don't know, but I see the Bengals winning this game. They went to Buffalo and beat the heck out of Buffalo. So why can't they do it in Kansas City?
I also think that part of the story is going to be Tyreek Hill not being there. Everybody's going to look and be like, look, the Chiefs did take the step back that we thought they would. And I'm not even saying that would be the accurate story, but I don't know. I sense these stories coming. I think the Eagles 49ers game, if the 49ers do win, they'll win close. If any team blows the other out, the Eagles will blow out the 49ers if it's one way or the other. I just feel a close Niners victory.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I agree. I think that game's a 3-point game in Philadelphia.
All right, now let's talk about off-season as a fantasy football fan. We're going to get into baseball later in the show. We talked about talking about basketball, but Kasey, I think Ross and I have decided, and you're going to love this, nobody really cares. I mean, we play it for fun, but I don't think anybody really cares. Listen, fans out there, if you're listening and you do care, let us know because we can talk about it. We'll be happy to, but there's just not a lot of
Damian Lillard had 60 points last night. I mean, we can talk about that if you want, but I don't think anybody cares until the playoffs start. It's everybody's just going through the motions right now in the NBA.
We're talking about practice, man.
Most famous quotes from press conferences. We can get into that later. So let's talk, and I don't want to just talk dynasty. I want to talk keeper league too. I have a keeper league where you can keep 2 to 4 players.
2 to 4.
My question here is, what should I be? Let's start with the keeper league. We'll get to dynasty in a second. But let's say, and you guys can bring in other leagues if you want, as well as the fans can. But if I'm playing in a league and I've got 2 to 4 that I can keep, what positions should I be looking at? This is not a super flex league.
Okay.
It is not PPR. So standard league. What positions do you want to have in a keeper league?
Case, you can go first.
I think it's whatever position you have tier 1 talent on. I don't necessarily. Football only has 5 positions, right? Or is it 5? Tight end, wide receiver, quarterback, running back, and flex. And so position scarcity
doesn't really matter that much.
Doesn't matter because
the real question I think is, I think you don't keep a tight end unless they're absolutely elite.
Unless it's Travis Kelce. I think he's the only keepable tight end right now.
I think Kelsey's the only keepable tight end. Maybe Kittle, but yes, I don't think Andrews is keepable anymore.
I agree.
Kittle is just injury prone. That's the issue with him. Kelsey's
durable.
but
Baltimore's game plan is not throwing the ball. It's throwing the ball down your throat. That's Baltimore. And you got to know that being a fantasy owner. So keep going.
And then the real question is quarterback. This is not a super flex league. So
I think only if you have one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks do you keep a quarterback.
And who are those?
Go, Case. We talked about this. You can do it.
Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Jalen Hurts.
Okay, so
got it, Kasey.
Guess what?
Maybe Justin Fields, ironically, I would consider.
Maybe.
And so, what about Justin Herbert? Automatic no keep? What do we say?
Not after this. Not in if you're only keeping 4 positions. And are you confident enough that Justin Herbert's going to be that much better than Trevor Lawrence next year, or that much better than? I'm
not actually,
Daniel
but
Jones at this point.
I'm not actually, but I dealt away a lot of my players, so I'm probably going to keep him just because I don't have the talent behind
Well,
him.
there you go. That's the other thing.
The one guy I am keeping is Justin Jefferson. That's an automatic.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson, again, top tier, like Kasey said. Yes, you keep Justin.
I mean, I would say Justin Jefferson might be the number one player to keep.
Yeah, he's top tier
fantasy
in the top of the. He's the top of the top tier.
Well, let's shift over to Dynasty then. Where is Justin Jefferson there? Is he the number one player to own even in Superflex leagues?
Ooh,
Not in Superflex. I don't think in
Superflex.
Superflex, but I think in a single quarterback that Justin Jefferson's number one. Sure, because he's only 24.
Yeah,
like it's not even like he's old, right? And he's never been hurt. Like he's got all of the kind of Randy Moss intangibles to go back to like the previous Vikings super stud wide receiver. But yeah, he's probably number one. I think Kenneth Walker is probably the number one running back to keep in Dynasty right now.
Ooh, disagree. Ooh.
Well, Eckler's awesome.
Ooh.
Don't get me wrong, but he's a history of back injuries and he's in like his 6th year or 5th year in the league.
All right, okay, Ross, who is it?
So let's talk about, hold on. Let me review what Kasey said, because I agree with most of it. To win your league next year, you got to have one of the 4 elite quarterbacks to win, period. There's no discussion. I just believe these guys are so much better than everybody else and so consistent that you got to have one of those top 4 guys. So there you go. And you've got to draft in the 2nd or 3rd round, do it. I'm just telling you. Now, I'll ask you a question, Dan. Who was the last running back? Don't say anything, Kasey Shienvold. To have 400 touches, which means 400 touches is rushes and receptions. Who was the last running back to do that?
The last one? So I'm guessing Alvin Kamara didn't actually make it there.
No, this year was totally.
I don't mean this year.
No, even at his peak, because
I'll give you a clue.
Who was it?
I'm going to guess LaDainian Tomlinson.
He did get over 400 touches in 2006. He did, but he was not the last one to do it. The last one to do it is 2019. Is a guy named Christian McCaffrey.
Oh,
when he had probably the biggest fantasy year ever. So I mean, running backs are not getting the 400 touches like the Larry Johnsons used to get, the Tommy and Damonsons, all those guys. But I mean, the guys that are up there, I mean, Eckler did have
an amazing butchering of the name, by the way. It has to be highlighted.
Eckler did have over 100 receptions, which is great. And he also had over 1,000 yards rushing, which is unbelievable. So, I mean, Eckler at the running back position, to me, is the number one guy to have on your team for obvious reasons.
Okay,
because let me just tell you about the running back position. Now, it's not like the old days when Kasey was in high school and he was playing fantasy football with his friends, when you can just draft one running back from each team and they played 90% of the game. I mean, that doesn't happen. Now it's all about ball sharing, about who's the backup, who can you handcuff, who can you do this, who can do that. It's not the one running back. I mean, back in the old days, we used to draft the running backs and they were all gone by the 6th round. Now
it was almost all running backs.
They were all gone by the 3rd round, it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, now the usable guys are available in the 7th, 8th, and 9th round. So it's a whole different game now with these running backs. It really is. And unless you get one of these, like even your guy Chubb in Cleveland, I mean, he gets a lot of touches. I mean, he's on my list to draft next year.
Yeah, so but if it's a PPR league, he loses value.
Okay. I'm just saying, I'm looking at touches. I'm looking how many times the player touches the ball. And to me, that's the most important fact in fantasy football. Because if your player is not touching the ball, he's not getting points.
Right.
So you got to be aware what's going on. You got to play the offseason like a general manager. You just can't quit and walk away from the game and come back in August and think you know what's going on. You're not going to win your league. You got to be like Ross the Boss, like study it 24 hours a day.
So what's happening right now that you would?
So right now, as I mentioned, Hackett, the coach of the Broncos who was fired, he just signed with the Jets. So he's the offensive coordinator of the Jets now. So do you really think he's a great offensive coordinator? Do you think he's going to help the New York Jets and their offense?
No, it seems to me like it's a perfect match to continue doing what they usually do.
I agree. And then Frank Reich, it's Kasey and I pointed out, he's the new coach of the Panthers. I mean, he's okay. But, Frank Reich likes to run the ball. He's a guy that he's not really a passing coach as much as other guys. So, I mean, it kind of hurts the value of Moore. It kind of hurts the value of some other receivers over in Carolina.
Of course,
I have no idea who Carolina's quarterback's going to be next year either.
Exactly.
They're going to draft a quarterback and re-sign, tag Sam Darnold and give him 1 year to cover till they have a quarterback to play. That would be my bet.
So right now,
that's the only one.
And guys, there's a rumor going around, and anybody's listening who wants to interject can type in and talk to us about it. That the coach of Kansas City is not going to be there next year. That Andy Reid.
Well, that if he wins the Super Bowl, he's going to ride off into the sunset.
That's what I heard, and that's why Eric Bileman, how do you say, is Eric
the enemy?
The enemy.
Sleeping with the enemy. Right.
Sleeping with the enemy. Hasn't gone anywhere because I think they promised him to be the head coach when Andy Reid leaves. I think that's what's going on in Kansas City because there's no reason why he should not be a head coach. I mean, he's done everything. This guy's a great coach. And I don't think it has anything to do with anything except they promised him when Andy Reid retires or he leaves, you're the new head coach. And I believe that right now.
And it makes sense that they would do that. I mean, why let a guy that you feel is that talented and ready to do it? Why let him go?
And they're paying him. They're paying him a lot of. I mean, he gets paid almost as a head coach. I mean,
that's why he's there. He's going to take over the head coach there.
So going back to dynasty running backs, you really think Austin Eckler is a better dynasty running back than Jonathan Taylor right now, Ross?
I'd rather have Eckler. Guys, my vote is Eckler. Dr. Dan Ratner.
My vote is Kenneth Walker.
Well, the reason I'm saying Taylor more, I said Kenneth Walker too, although I could, if Breece Hall is coming back from his knee surgery back to 100%, I could see him going there as well.
I agree, but I'd rather have young guys like that. Age is just such a factor.
Jonathan Taylor is, and this might not make sense, is 4 years younger than Austin Eckler.
Yeah, but Kasey, they don't have a guy that can play the quarterback position that can show the passing game that opens up the running game.
Like,
it doesn't matter. Dynasty in 3 years, Austin Eckler's not going to be there,
and it could be in a year and a half. He'll be 29 by the end of next season.
Yeah, Eckler has that. This is the difference in dynasty, as far as I see it. Age plays such a huge factor. I just got offered Derrick Henry for a back-end first-round pick and automatically rejected it. Why? Because he's 29 years old.
He's 29 years old, and he's in the down end of his career.
But Austin Eckler is 28 years 3 months. So he's not.
How dare you be ageism at its best with Kasey Shienvold?
Jonathan Taylor, although it seems like he's been around forever, is only 24 and a half.
24 and a half. I know
that.
Well,
actually, the same thing happened with Josh Jacobs this year. Everybody's treating him like he's 26 years old.
He's 24.
Yeah. And do you hear how ridiculous this conversation, though, is outside of fantasy football? Or we're saying 26 is potentially
28 is the twilight of your career.
Yeah, it's like Logan's Run. You hit 30 and you're dead. But I think Eckler's going to have at least 2 good years on him, and I believe that he can win you your championship.
Okay, but if you're going to do that, Ross, you got to be ready to deal him in about a year or a year and a half.
No. In Dynasty, I can draft some young running backs that are ready to go in a couple
You can, but
years.
You're going to lose the value if you just let him age.
Well, then I'll win the league with them. And
this is going to be exciting. When we start our Dynasty League, Kasey, we can see Ross's philosophy is different. And maybe he'll kill us with it.
Yeah, he could. We'll find out.
I want to win now. I'm looking at guys that
you are a win now.
And I guess what I'm saying is Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, they can win now and 3 years from now.
That's why I like them better.
You're right that Austin Eckler for the next 2 years is going to be better than most 22, 23, 24-year-old running backs, but he's not better enough than them to justify losing the 2 or 3 years of usability on the back end.
Okay, who's Hall's offense coordinator? I forgot his name. What's his name? Hackett. You really think he's going to have a great year with Hackett as his offensive coordinator?
Hey,
he had a great year last year.
Hackett was pretty good on the offense when he was with Green Bay. Pretty good on the offense he might be a terrible head coach, but he got the job because a lot of people thought he was a good offensive coordinator.
Have you seen his press conferences with this guy? He's a clown. I mean, he's a clown without the makeup.
But if we're going to talk press conferences, remember the Philadelphia head coach.
He walks in the room. Hi, everybody. It's Hackett. I mean, he's an idiot. But keep going.
Well,
he can be a savant.
Known for their intelligence.
That's fine.
Like the coach of Miami.
Which one? You mean now?
McDaniel, the coach of Miami.
He's a little bizarre. Yeah,
he's a little bizarre.
Uh-huh.
He's vaping during the game. Vaping.
vaping. Very, very strange. They did have a very successful season, though. I got to give it to them.
made the playoffs
I would
this year.
actually put wide receivers probably as my first 3 picks in Dynasty this year if it was a 1 quarterback league.
Tell me
That
who
makes
they are.
sense.
Go.
Yeah. Go
Tell
ahead.
me your
Who
top
would they
3.
be?
Go.
Well, I think it's Jefferson and Chase. And you can
Mhm.
make an argument the way CeeDee Lamb finished the season. And if he's finally kind of coming to his potential there at 24 years old, like he's a true number one. What about what, AJ Brown is doing at 26? Like these guys are going to outproduce any running back. And if you're in a single quarterback league, it's
You can
not
wait
as
because
quick.
there's
You
not as
can
much
wait.
difference.
Yeah. I mean,
And
so
I think Ross has made this point many times and in a way that really needs to be heard. The game has changed. It is not a running backs game anymore.
no, it's not. It's a spread offense game. Like it's doing the equivalent of what all the kind of back in my day NBA players say about how like you're not allowed to touch the guy now in the NBA and how much they could have scored if you didn't get clotheslined every time you went into the lane.
Right.
Like, but that's what they're saying. The defensive backs are handcuffed now and playing real defense against wide receivers. So,
all right. Now, Ross, have you been paying attention to the rookies that are coming in from a dynasty perspective? Who do you think is going to be more
we talked
explosive
about
than
it.
what people think?
CJ Stroud for the Ohio State Buckeyes, I believe, and Kasey believes that, and Bill believes that he's going to be a starter immediately in the NFL. I think this kid really has the potential to be really good. And with him he plays in these big games. I mean, he's in college. He played in Michigan, Ohio State. He's played for the national championship. I mean, he's played in all these huge games. This guy.
His game against Georgia, even though they lost in the semifinal, was one of the most impressive quarterback games you'll see. I mean, it was crazy.
And then the quarterback for Alabama, the Heisman Trophy winner 2 years ago, not this year. It was the kid from USC, Bryce Young. I mean, they call him a little person. He's like 5'11". They say he's too short to play quarterback. I don't believe that. I think he can play quarterback in the league. He plays in a very, very high intense place in Alabama. I think he's good. I think he's good enough to start. I don't know if anybody will give him the opportunity, but I have a lot of faith in him. And then there's that kid from Kentucky,
Will Levis.
Thing about him is
Penn State.
The thing about him is I never really seen him take the ball with a minute left to win a big game, and win a championship or anything like that. Kentucky's a very mediocre football program. I said it. So, I mean, I know this guy has all the skill set. I know he's great, but I just mentally, I don't know if he's ready for the NFL. And then you got that kid Richardson,
Anthony Richardson from Florida.
Anthony Richardson, who's really good also. So you got some great quarterbacks, and then running backs. He's projected to go to the Cowboys. Is that guy Robinson for Texas, the running back?
Oh my God, Bijan Robinson on the Cowboys.
That's what Mel Kiper said. He says the Cowboys want to draft.
Well, that's because they don't think they're going to bring back Zeke or Tony Powell.
Yeah,
right. So, but I mean, what a perfect landing spot that would be.
Well, I'm just saying for Dynasty
and for him.
For Dynasty, he'll be huge. So if you need a running back in Dynasty, your first round pick should be the guy from Texas. And then I love this guy. I think he's going to be a star. Is Addison for USC. He was the Blitnikoff winner last year when he was at the University of Pittsburgh. USC kind of spread the ball out a little more. He's still a great year. This guy Addison is the real deal, and I believe he'll be a great pro. But there's a lot of good receivers coming out too. Kasey loves the guy from TCU. In case, why don't you talk about him a little bit?
Talk about Quentin Johnson,
the receiver for TCU. Yeah, the receiver.
He's huge. He's got that AJ Brown mold, and I like Jordan Addison. Although to me, he's a little on the smaller side. He looks more like a slot receiver in the NFL, which can be great, but it's also riskier than being, what do they call him, the X receiver, the outside receiver. This guy Quentin Johnston is just enormous. He's 6'4", 200 and some odd pounds. He gets the 50-50 balls, but also has the speed to get deep on you. He's not the greatest route runner from what I've read about him. But that's something they can. I mean,
do you think he's the next Megatron?
I see. Well, no, I'm never going to say anybody's the next Megatron. Like that's like saying who's the next Jordan to me when it comes to wide receivers. But he's an AJ Brown type, and that to me is, I mean, look what AJ Brown did this year, right? He's this mammoth of a receiver who can catch it over the middle without being scared and beat you deep on go routes and then run after the catch. You know, I one of those sports science things did Calvin Johnson. It's like his catch radius was a 3-car garage. Like that's pretty much how close you had to get it to him, and there was a good chance he was going to catch it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to put anybody in that category, but to me, Johnston is the top wide receiver, then Jordan Addison, and then probably either Smith Najigba, the kid out of Ohio State, or I don't even know, maybe that Boutte or whatever his name is, Boot from LSU.
Yeah, I'm going to have some interesting decisions to make because I have 1-6 also, and I'm probably going to be looking at most of those receivers. I would guess Johnston is gone at that point.
Why? Because I have 3 and 4.
Well, that's just an added reason. But I think in most leagues he'll be gone before 1-6.
Look, you got to imagine in a rookie draft in Dynasty, 3 quarterbacks are going to go in the first 5 picks, and then at least 1 running back.
So you think Levis will go in the top 5 picks? I'm not sure about that.
I do. I think
you love him. I mean, scouts love this kid.
Who has pick 5 in our
Andrew?
I don't remember.
I can look. Hold on. But I would think, I mean, obviously we have some insider information on what the top 3 or 4 picks are going to be, but let's see.
Since I have the first 2 in case he has the next 2, this is not typical.
Well, so let's just review real quick. I talked about it Tuesday with Kasey. So the calendar year for fantasy football is this. We got hiring of coaches coming up right now. It will go through the day after the Super Bowl. There'll be a lot of changes, so just be aware. And then we got free agency signings starting in March. So you got to watch who signs who goes where, what happens in the depth charts. Then we got the draft in April, right, Case? A draft in April. And then we got in August and July, we have camps coming together and we can figure out who's starting and who's not. And all this stuff is huge in fantasy football because, you know,
it really does go year round. If you're really paying attention and trying to figure out where the value is, it goes year round. So which coaching positions do you think are the best coaching positions to land?
Well, I think if McCarthy gets axed, I think Dallas is probably number 1.
Sure.
I mean, you're going to a ready-made to win. Which other?
There's Denver, Kasey. There's Denver that's open.
Yeah, I know. Denver, I don't like because
you don't like Denver. Okay,
dealing with Russell Wilson.
You don't like
it. You don't have any salary hit. I don't think. Arizona could be an attractive landing spot if you think Kyler Murray can rebound because they have Hopkins and they have Hollywood Brown and they have James Conner and they have the rookie tight end who is decent. They're going to need some defensive help, obviously. And I'm not a huge Kyler Murray supporter or fan, so I'm not sold on that. Is Chicago, is that open or do they still keep their coach?
I actually don't even remember. Ross, what's the situation with that?
Well, I know their old coach, Levy Smith, was fired from Houston. I didn't hear anything about the Bears coach getting fired yet. But again, this stuff could happen the day after the Super Bowl. Because sometimes
the Bears becomes attractive because you have the first. What?
You froze.
Well, you have the first pick of the draft and Justin Fields. Oh, I'm sorry. I said it's an attractive position if it's available because you have Justin Fields and the first pick of the draft. Like, imagine being able to trade down because you don't need a quarterback. The amount of capital you could get for that first pick is crazy when people are trying to get Stroud or Young. I mean, this isn't a year like last year where Kenny Pickett was the best quarterback available, and that's not a knock on Kenny Pickett. But that first pick isn't very valuable when Kenny Pickett is number 1.
No, the Bears' position would be, if it opens up, would be much more attractive than it used to be because Justin Fields is there. They finally have a quarterback. And like you said, they've got, that high pick.
Matt Eberflus is the head coach.
He's from Toledo, Ohio.
Eberflus.
Okay. He went to the University of Toledo. Yeah. He had a 3-14 record, making him the least successful head coach in Chicago Bears history.
Where did McVay go to college, guys? Quiz question. Where did McVay
Arizona State? That's my guess.
He went to school where my daughter goes, University of Miami of Ohio.
I knew it was connected to Ross.
Miami of Ohio.
By the way he asked the question.
They went there. So let me ask you guys a question. Next year's draft, and for Dynasty and the NFL draft, Khalid Williams, hands down, number one, hands down.
Case?
I don't know if I can say anybody's hands down number one a year and 2 months in
There's
advance.
a lot that can change.
Yeah, I
A
mean,
lot can change according to
he gets a
Dr. Dan
shoulder
Ratner
injury
and
or
his
an
new
elbow
doctor's
injury,
son.
and suddenly,
Or look, even if he underperforms, I mean, there's so many times where people are like, "What's going on with him?" and they just can't tell. Valuation changes a lot. I mean, I don't know how you say his name, Keyshawn Bout or Boot,
Butte, yeah,
Butte.
I don't know.
My goodness,
Booty.
we have lots. We should have had Ross pronounce this.
Booty.
I mean, he was basically regarded as the top wide receiver pick
And
a year ago.
now he's 3 or 4 on the, or 4 or 5
that's
on
after
the
coming
wide
back.
receiver depth chart. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
after
that
coming
can
back.
change at the compound at the combines. Is that what they call it now? Yeah.
Meanwhile, Smith Njigba, the Ohio State, got 5 receptions this year because of injuries or whatever, and he's still considered the second or third best wide receiver on the board because of
look
what
at
he
the
did the year
receiver
before.
the receiver for the Steelers, Pickens. I mean, he played.
That's
barely
exactly who I
played.
was thinking of. He reminds me of Pickens.
I mean,
he's got
Pickens
huge upside.
barely played college football. He was hurt every year, and
Right.
he was a second round, or what round did he go? Second round.
So Dan,
very high drafted guy.
Well, that was in Dynasty. You're asking in the NFL where he was
Yeah,
drafted.
I'm asking about NFL.
pick 5 in our draft is AIO. I don't know who that is, but their quarterbacks are Davis Mills, Zach Wilson, Mitch Trubisky, Lamar Jackson, and Jimmy Garoppolo. So I feel it's a safe
does
bet
sound like a Will Levis pick.
that he's going to be looking at Will
Is this a super flex league, or is this
Super
just
flex.
Super flex.
2 quarterback?
Yeah,
league.
he needs a quarterback because
So I have
half
a
those guys
feeling-
are not going to be playing in the NFL.
So at
next year.
6, you'll probably have either your pick of those wide receivers or maybe one off the board.
The thing is, you have to hope that Will Levis does come through, because the thing is, with a player like Will Levis, you could end up getting nothing from that pick. I'm not saying I'm expecting that, or I'm down on Levis or anything like that. You just need to know when you're in a super flex league and you're picking in the middle, and you don't have a guy that feels like a surefire hit, you could miss entirely on that pick.
Yeah, again, the only quarterback I have faith in is going to start next season is CJ. That's it.
Let me ask you a question. Starting next season. Yeah, Bryce. But the question is Bryce Young or CJ Stroud going to be the better quarterback over the course of their career? Because I'm drafting one of the two of them.
Right.
And I already have.
And I'm drafting the other one.
I already have Justin Herbert and I have Jared Goff. So I don't need to start anybody this year.
I see, if my honest kind of comparison for them, because what I always try to do is look at the player. If I've watched him play or read the kind of stuff about them, who do I think they'll be most comparable to? CJ Stroud has kind of a Dak Prescott type of ceiling, which is really good for fantasy purposes. I mean, he's been a great fantasy quarterback. Bryce Young is kind of that Drew Brees type, undersized, but really cerebral and smart and super accurate with his passing. If he's in the right offense, he could be like he was in New Orleans. If he's not in the right offense, he'll be like he was in San Diego, right? Like a solid quarterback or an elite quarterback.
It's a good comparison. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think he's going to be more system dependent. I don't think CJ Stroud is. I think CJ Stroud is this big, strong arm talent guy who can be successful in almost any system, unless it's Atlanta where they don't let a quarterback throw the ball. He's more just going to be good no matter what, depending on who drafts and what type of system they put in place around Bryce Young. I think you could see him either be awesome or serviceable.
It's always funny to me when people make comparisons. I like those comparisons that you made, and I understand them. But sometimes people make comparisons that I don't understand. I was reading something on Quentin Johnson, and this person was raving about it. And he was like, the comparisons to Martavis Bryant write themselves. I was like, why is that impressive?
Bryant?
What? Yeah, that's what they said. I was like, wait, are we talking about the same guy? Did you what happened here? It was such a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Some of these guys that write these columns, have a player that they loved growing up, or they have
Yeah,
somebody
they're
in
like
mind,
they're
and they think
geeking out
like,
over something.
yeah, it just goes over everybody's head. It just
Yeah,
people
like,
don't get
and
it.
Will Levis, I put him in kind of that Matthew Stafford kind of mold where it's just
Okay.
a big, strong guy who can make every single throw. And when he's on, he looks beautiful. When he's not, he's going to throw 3 picks.
I think Will Levis will end up throwing a fair amount of interceptions. But
I just think Will Levis just not playing those big games. We didn't see him make those drives in the last minute to win games.
But from what
for the
I've read, because
University
I
of
didn't
Kentucky.
watch a lot of Kentucky football.
You didn't? I thought you were watching it
that's a
hands down every
disclaimer.
Saturday. I can't believe
I'm not
it.
a Wildcat football guy.
I kept shocked.
But Kentucky runs a very pro style offense. So from what I've read,
I know.
and so that's going to make the transition.
I know,
a little
but
bit
again,
easier.
okay, but when was the last time a big time quarterback came from a place or a program like Kentucky?
Drew Brees, Purdue.
Well,
okay,
Josh
but Purdue
Allen,
is still
Wyoming.
Big Ten, like
Josh Allen,
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Okay, that's a good one.
Josh Allen, Wyoming.
Yeah.
So there's a couple. I mean, Carson Wentz, his first few years out of North Dakota State was his first couple years. They were talking about him as an MVP the year they won the Super Bowl before he got hurt.
It's true, but the fact that he flamed out runs.
Ben Roethlisberger, Miami of Ohio.
There you go.
Well, okay, you got some good
Eli
ones.
Manning, Mississippi.
Yep, Eli Manning, Mississippi. No, right. How about Brett Favre, Southern Mississippi?
Ooh.
Take that, Dan Ratner.
There you go. All right.
Tim Couch. I'll throw it back to Cleveland.
Well, listen, that's part of why I asked.
Ryan Leaf, Washington State.
I mean, Tim Couch, not only did he come from Kentucky, a program that would be challenged to succeed in the NFL, but then he went to the Browns.
Yeah, he was
a program that is like he was sending people to World War II, like D-Day.
Did Couch go to Kentucky or Nebraska? I thought he went to Nebraska.
No, he went to Kentucky.
He went to Kentucky. Would you think Louisville's a football school?
No. Lamar Jackson made
Lamar
it a football
Jackson
school.
went to.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of great examples of it. And
Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner. He went to
Northern Iowa. Is that right?
Northern Iowa. Very well done.
Well, not only that, but he also was bagging groceries before he got.
He was working at the supermarket. And that's where he
Donovan
met his
McNabb went to Syracuse.
Yeah, I think a lot of times the thing is, I think with a guy like McNabb or even Roethlisberger, he ended up at a program that wasn't known for it, but people were still raving about the skill set. Are they talking the same way about Will Levis? I don't know if they are.
He's in the top 5 in the first round. I mean,
well, that's
Mel
true.
Kiper loves this guy.
That's true. But when
Mel Kiper loves him, and I think the combine's going to mean a lot. And when people see him in person throwing balls and everything, I think that's going to be a big thing for him. I mean, I heard great things. Again, I don't watch University of Kentucky football like Kasey does, but I don't even watch University of Kentucky basketball. I used to watch Kentucky basketball when they were good, not anymore.
They're amazingly bad. For Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's just these one and done guys, and I'm kind of sick of all that stuff. It kind of ruined the college basketball whole game for me. The transfers and the one and done players.
It's just definitely not as fun.
It ruined it, Kasey. It ruined it.
Now, guys, we didn't talk baseball today, but I figured next time we should, because pitchers and catchers are reporting. It's time. I mean, we're getting close.
It'd be great if you guys met me in Arizona for spring training. That'd be the best.
Ooh, that would be very tempting.
You could come down there, Dr. Dan Ratner. No excuses. It's 0 degrees in Cleveland. You can make it to Arizona where it's 80. In Kasey Shienvold, it's 12 degrees. There's no soccer going on in March. You can easily make it down to Arizona.
I've practiced tonight and games this weekend. But it's indoor at least.
So listen, we're gonna talk a lot of baseball starting next week.
We will. I'm excited for baseball. As I told Kasey, it's going to be great because there's no like COVID restrictions. It's going to be real baseball like we're used to it. And I kind of like all the free agent signings too. I mean, I like where all these players
I think we need to do a free agent signing roundup, and then do we want to talk about sleepers next time? I think we do. I want to hear.
That sounds good. And I got to figure out in our league. I got to figure out who the 6 guys I'm going to.
Yeah, for those of you who are watching, it's a keeper league where you get to keep 6 players.
Oh, my keepers took such a hard hit this year. Oh,
yeah. I'm hoping mine improved. I spent this year. This was the first year that I was like, I can't really compete at this point. The shelf is bare. I need to go rebuild. And hopefully it worked.
I had an okay season, but
You did.
I feel
Thanks to Aaron Judge.
this year I told Kasey this. I'm not going to save any relief pitchers. Last year I saved, I think, 2. I don't know why.
You had Josh Hader and somebody else.
And some other bozo. But I'm not saving. I'm going to draft these relief pitchers because that's what Dan said last year. He's not going to draft these guys till later, which is the genius move. But we'll talk about it next week. We'll go over some of these. We'll look at the rosters and figure out who we're saving. That'd be kind of fun.
All right, so we're gonna check and see how our predictions went in football, and then we're turning the corner to baseball here. If people want to talk football, let us know. It's year round. We will be checking in about it. We'll probably be talking Dynasty. We'll especially be talking about it around the draft. But we're gonna follow when March Madness comes in. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna keep following all these different sports, but baseball is about to ascend here on MFSN The Hub, and we look forward to it. Thank you so much for watching. Kasey, Ross, thanks for being here with me. I can't believe it. I'm fully rooting for the Bengals, and I apologize.
Who dey?
It's dangerous for them.
Who dey?
All right, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you same time next week. That's Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Looking forward to seeing you.